started.
Yeah.
Welcome to Chef Distilled, though, Key West's first legal rum distillery. We are the very first legal rum distillery down here. We're not the first person to bootleg rum, run rum, or make rum down here. We're just the first to get a license to do so. Only 10 years ago as well, if that says anything about the fees.
Okay.
We know the rule of rum. 3 things you need to make rum. All right, big call first, sugar.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
3 ingredients to make rum.
Sugar. Yeah, that's all I know.
We're all going to die without one of them?
Water.
All right, maybe we made bread before for the last one.
Yeast.
The yeast to ferment it. That's all you need to make rum. Sugar, water, and yeast. So we're going to start off with pure Demerara sugar. I'm going to pass this around, Michael, to explain. By the way, we're owned and operated by Chef Paul. If you want to taste some, you can pour some in your hand if you'd like. You might notice the flavor carry through when we try some high proof in a moment. This is the same base we use for every one of our rums. It all starts with this pure Demerara. Our larger competitors are going to use a byproduct of sugar called molasses. It's just the sugar cane pressed down repeatedly over and over and over until eventually they're boiling it and have a byproduct. We're not going to use any byproducts. We're only going to use the very first press. I describe this as like the extra virgin olive oil of sugars. Locally grown and sourced near the Okeechobee region here in Florida. It's very mineral rich. We start off with 150 pounds of this pure Demerara sugar into each wash tank, equal parts water. We're going to add a top-down yeast we call local because it thrives on the heat and humidity here. As you can see here, as the yeast eats the sugar, it's going to off this carbon dioxide. It's also going to ferment and create that alcohol. When it's done fermenting, we take a gravity reading. It'll be about a 6% alcohol, kind of a perry yeasty mixture. And from there, we're actually going to strip the alcohol out of here. So we're going to take one of these wash tanks with that 6% wash over to our stripping so we'll turn it into a 40% rum. You might have noticed some of the weird stuff around the room while I'm talking besides myself, like the writing on the barrels, the kite boards and things. Each one of them is a little different. You see those ones right in front of you, the Irma barrels, those actually survived the flooding of Hurricane Irma. So we salt cure all of our barrels here. These were salt cured a little extra. Some of them are just different types of rums for aging. So this isn't anybody's ex-wife here. This is actually one of our #1 sellers. This is the Bad Bitch rum. And if you just see the random signatures and things, that's just somebody that the chef personally admired that was here. Musicians, famous champion like this, Chuck Liddell was hanging out with him. I know he's proud of this one. 2 chef, love Gordon Ramsay, 2 Paul, love Gordon. I recently had a cooking competition against Gordon Ramsay for the new show Uncharted that just came out. We're pretty excited to see that. I love, like I said, shooting fish and catching lobsters and thing. I'm hoping it's some kind of catch and cook-off style thing like that as well. That's kind of the nature of that new show. Let's see. All right, so we're going to take one of these 6% washes over to our stripping still. You guys want to follow along? One cool little pocket right here. You're going to think it's a trap door, but
I like it.
quite cool. So we're going to fill that wash up to here. There's 3 modifications we made to our stills. Sure, talking to the microphone's been out the whole time. 3 modifications we made to our stills. One is the wheels, similar to a kitchen. Everything here is on wheels. Also, we're 100 miles off the middle of the ocean in the path of major hurricanes. We thought it'd be a good idea to be able to move things around a little bit. The other is the mixer. We use the mixer because we're using pure concentrated sugar in a lot of it. So we actually mix and heat it before fermenting it, and we're going to bring it back to our stripping still. And the third is the steam jacket. We opted to use a steam jacket instead of traditional methods of propane gases. You can't burn food with steam, and that's the same thing we wanted for the rums and the flavors of our rum. So as you begin to heat it, alcohol has a lower evaporation temperature. The alcohol is going to begin to evaporate up this copper column. As the pressure increases, it's going to enter the stainless steel column at the top there, where it's met with cooling water from the back. It's going to condensate and turn back into a liquid. It's going to drip down this copper coil into the parrot, and when it comes out, you have a clear rum. It is 40% alcohol. It's 80 proof. It'll get you drunk. Also, you get a terrible hangover on this one, though. I put a little on my fingers to show you guys that shine left over. We call fusel oils, German word for bad oil, but essentially these are those heavy impurities left over in that rum responsible for that bad hangover. Somebody else might bottle it and send it out the door, use a food-grade additive known as glycerin to coat your tongue. Maybe you're not familiar with that. If you ever have your cheeks tingling, not feeling on your tongue, they're trying to mask those impurities. So this is the only one we don't give you a taste of. Sometimes we smell it. If it's running, I'll put it in the dish and pass it around. I think it smells like waking up to regrets in the morning. The girls think it smells like college. We all have a different experience there. Some are similar. So we're going to take it from our stripping still over to our spirit still here. You notice these 6 quarts in the front here? Each one of these quarts is a separate distillation to a total of 6 times further distilled. Behind each one of these quarts is extremely thick copper plating called bubbler plates. The same principle is going to apply. The lighter, cleaner, higher proof alcohol is going to rise through the next distillation. As those heavier oils and impurities are going to struggle, and they're going to fall to the bottom of the still. That process is going to repeat itself over and over, a true reflux fill. And as it does, the proof's going to rise from 80 proof to 90 proof, 100 proof, 110 proof, 120 proof, 130 proof, 140 proof, until finally it comes out of this parrot at approximately 160 proof rum.
That'll get you drunk.
That will get you drunk. And luckily, you can tell me personally. So I'm going to reach over here in this barrel. I don't know if you notice everybody's going. I'm going to read this out right here. What does that say right there on that label? Right next to proof?
161.
161. It's the highest we ever take it, 156 to 161, to be able to have that same flavor. Right before we try that though, there's one last step to purify it. Right above my head is this 60-gallon chef's pot. Underneath it, we have these 2 copper pipes, and they're packed with granulated, activated charcoal and filters. It's going to act similar to a Brita filter to filter out any remaining oils and impurities left over in that rum. It's very tightly packed. When we open the spigot, it's going to drip out of here slowly all day long for at least 6 to 8 hours into this barrel here. When we're done, you have the base for every one of our rums, still sitting strong at 161 proof.
Oh, hell.
Let that flash in the back. That's just good old clear rum right here.
Wow.
No oils and impurities left. The only thing better than looking at it and smelling it would be tasting this rum. So if you notice right here next to me, a mason jar right here. If you give that a little shake, you see the instant bubble dissipation? You'll know that's just a little over 80% alcohol. That's 161 proof. This is the only part I got to do legally by law. We're not supposed to serve you guys 161 proof rum out of the stills into a glass. But we read that law really carefully, and it just kept saying glass. It never said one word about turkey basters. Yeah. I'm going to take it out of the glass for you. This holds up. I'm going to come around to you guys if you'd like to sample. Make your best hand cup. I'm okay. You want to take your best little shot there. They say dip your finger in to get the full flavor, but if you want to take a shot and throw it back, anybody to do so. Just remember, one shot is 2. It's 161 proof. Be careful.
I'm a scaredy cat.
Maybe one drop on the little finger. You'd be surprised. It's got a great taste. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This is going to warm your chest for the first 20 seconds to a minute. That is 161 proof rum, but it's going to dissipate really quickly. 20 more seconds, you're going to notice just that great flavor on your tongue. It's going to evaporate out of your chest. People can't believe that a high proof could actually have a great flavor. I mean, if you've ever tried another high proof, Everclear 151, Grandpappy Moonshine, it just burned.
Yeah.
So obviously this is going to warm your chest going down, but it fades quickly and you're left with a great flavor.
I've already had like 6 of those little tastes of pina colada. That right there, I'm not far from going over the edge here.
Oh yeah, not bad right there. Nice and fuzzy.
Oh great, I'm gonna have to get us home.
You're going to be figuring around.
Call me a cab, because I'm not going to be able to deal with the bike.
Honestly, that's the beauty of Key West, is to be able to walk around town everywhere in his bicycle. It's just safe, and honestly, it's just fun.
Yeah, it is.
Like I remember when I first got it, feels like a little adventure. You know, and really, when you're on like a little thing, when are you with your spouse going around on some random island somewhere trying to get, you're like, how far is the hotel or whatever? You get lost on the way and end up around. I don't even want to tell you my first trip down here, but before I sailed down, I came down on a motorcycle. I got to leave this on the tour, especially on the thing there. But yeah, I literally got lost. You know, it's like a 2 square mile island. You know, you're enjoying yourself quite a bit when you get lost on this island. So, but yeah, that's a common theme here. So anyways, these are the same exact base batch you guys just tried. Same great flavor. It's just a little bit of distilled water, so we can legally bottle it and send it out the door. This one down to 140 proof for the Key West Legend, and the Key West Legal rum down to 80 proof. That's why we all try the pina coladas. Same great base batch you had there. Just a distinct flavor. Before a distinct flavor is going to take over. So those are great to make any mixed drinks. And from there, the different flavors, different colors. This is a different barrel aging process. There's a light rum, a dark rum, and a red rum. Each one's a little different. The dark rum here is the Key West Raw and Unfiltered. See that heavy sediment at the bottom there? That's left in there intentionally on the Raw and Unfiltered. That's the desired flavor. He says shake well before serving. That's done in these brand new all-American oak barrels with the number 3 char rum. So whiskey drinkers, bourbon drinkers might recognize that. That's that same exact flavor and char they're accustomed to. Just a little bit sweeter of a finish with the rums. Alright, this one right here is the Bad Bitch rum. She's got a few medals on her shoulder. It is our #1 seller here. It's the only one with a little story attached to her as well. No, her last name is not Bitch, by the way, it's Waits. So, Marie Waits is her name. They call her Spanish Marie. She was said to be a beautiful, charismatic, and cunning woman. She was a rum runner and smuggler here on the island. To me, she sounds like a murderous pirate, but they call her a rum runner. So she was said to be a beautiful, charismatic, cunning woman. She's so beautiful, she got the attention of Charlie Waite, who was the king of rum runners, and he ran all the rum from Bimini, the Bahamas, over to Miami, Florida. He wasn't just successful, he's a tough guy. He had a reputation as somebody who was not going to give his rum up without a fight. Because they had a pretty successful operation together. Unfortunately for Charlie, though, one day the person that did give him that fight was the United States Coast Guard. So perhaps he surmised it didn't work out that great for Charlie. He was actually shot in the face, his body fell overboard, was never recovered. A little darker twist there on the tour. Most people, not your typical Kentucky tour. So.
Well, if the body was ever recovered, then you don't know if he ever died.
That's what somebody else always jokes like. Maybe he's with Jimmy Hoffa. I like all the different theories. The crowd gives you a bunch of cool ones, especially sometimes you just think somebody in the story is a dumbass, like the judge, and then you realize maybe Marie was just really, really clever. Maybe she greased his wheels one way or another. That part I'm speculating, but it's just our own little, our own take on it.
Well, keep in mind, Cuba, Key West, Bahamas, swimming those distances is not unheard of.
Yeah.
So,
but because the body wasn't recovered, Marie couldn't cash in on his insurance policy, and she was pretty upset about that. She actually vowed to get her revenge. She took over the family business, expanded the operation, and began to run all the rum from behind us in Havana, Cuba to here in Key West, Florida. And her height, she had 15 ships in her armada running back and forth running her rum. Pretty badass. I read it was a common practice to have 4 large boats coming from Cuba. 3 would be laden full of rum, like the cast in the black and white photo, and the 4th would be full of guys armed and ready to fight for interference in case they were intercepted. The 1 boat would fight and slow them down, as the other 3 would meet with faster boats to offload that cargo here to the Keys. So,
Wow.
cool.
pretty bad one. Obviously, Coast Guard wasn't too keen on that either. Evolution of technology and faster ships. She had to get even more clever to stay ahead of them. She implemented a pirate radio here in Key West, radios on all of her boats to send false Spanish transmissions. They believed they were cracking their Spanish code, but in reality, she was just tricking them and offloading the cargo on the other sides of the islands. She was a pretty crafty woman as well. Obviously, not going to run the law forever. The Coast Guard did arrest her, unloaded her flagship in the middle of the night. The Coast Guard took her to jail. Like most people, shouldn't plan on going to jail that evening. Wasn't her travel plan. She actually pleaded with the judge. She was a widow, had 2 young children at home alone. She had to get home to her children and make arrangements so she could appear the next day in court to handle her charges. The judge did grant her bail.
Oh, yeah.
She decided instead of rotting away in jail, she'd take her 15 ships, approximately $1 million prohibition time, and she set sail out of Key West. She ended up with these beautiful sunsets. From there, we heard she changed her name like 5 or 6 more times. Each one of those husbands kept mysteriously disappearing. So I like the joke that prenup was probably about this long for each one of them. Kept working out well for Marie.
Yep.
So she's famous for quite a few things, good and bad. She was famous for cutting her rum down to proof, not using distilled water. She cut it using red wine. So with that in mind, the chef actually traveled to France, got these red Pinot Noir wine barrels here. We take our base batch that you guys just tried, put them into our salt-cured barrels. I'll mention in a moment. We cured them for 18 months in these French Pinot Noir wine barrels, and when it comes out, gives them those wine tannins, and you have our famous red rum. I guess if the guys got too close to her business, her money, and her secrets, she would just take them on a cruise, and only she would return every time. She must have been beautiful when she kills the first 5 or 6, and the 7th one's like, let's go for a sail. Luckily, I wasn't here. I'd probably been number 8.
Maybe.
So right next to it is the Bad Fish Blonde. This one's aged in a Chardonnay barrel. It's said to have more of a macadamia nut type of flavor to it. I think it's a more classy, carefree blonde sister there, because there's no stories of murder and debauchery to be told. Just a nice, classy drink. I like the joke, though, which one was a real Key West resident? Which one we just made up? So the salt-cured barrels in the last 2 bottles. The salt-cured barrels, if you're not familiar, we're the only ones that I know that use salt to cure our barrels. Everybody else uses fresh water. The wood's going to absorb the water. It's going to expand a little bit. Nothing's going to leak out of that barrel. Same concept of making a big old wooden chip. You don't want the ocean leaking in. We don't want our rum leaking out. We're the only ones that I know that use seawater. We actually got a couple on the ground right here, right now this morning that they're filling up. These are brand new American oak barrels he just got in. He took them down the street, and you can see they're full right now until he drains them. That's full of seawater from Simonton Beach here. When it dries, it's going to do that, but it does 2 other things. It leaves a salty crust on the inside that lowers the acidity. And he also described it to me as you wouldn't take a high-quality steak and soak it in fresh water and leave that in your fridge overnight to try to enhance and pull the flavors out of it. But you would use salts and things to brine jerky, steak, salmons, etc. Same principle we use to accelerate the aging process of all of our rums and give us a distinct flavor. Every single barrel is salt-cured first. So last 2 bottles of the 105 Simonton and the 10-year Solara right here. This 10-year Solara actually comes in a little fancy display case. It's a bunch of instances over the last 10 years that he hand-selected his finest batches, hurricanes, fundraisers, and things, and he mixed it into a Solara. It's It's done in 2 barrels across the room that say 180. The tree was 180 years old that used to make that barrel. We salt cured the barrel, and then we mixed our finest selection, our 10-year, 9-year, 8-year, 7-year, etc., into a Solara. It has a little bit of the first legal rum that ever come through these stills mixed into there. So not just a phenomenal rum, even if it's a little bit, it's got some history to it as well. Then right here, this is the last bottle, the 105 Simonton. This is actually in honor of this address here, so it's always an honor here in the long history. But earlier this week or last week, we just re-released it, but with the 10-year Solara in there at 105 proof. So that one's a pretty distinct rum right there. If you get a chance to try that one as well, pretty limited. It's small batches, they're signed a number. But that's in honor of this address here, 105 Simonton Street. There's a long, long history here. It was actually this man's saloon in 1900. His name's Jack. He owned and operated this saloon and sold wine, cigars, liquors, and things as well. He was really proud of that place. And he owned this place until 1903 when it was purchased by the second ever Coca-Cola bottling factory, Key West, Florida. 1903 until the 1980s. Second ever Coca-Cola. Yeah, Key West right on the bottom. Certainly not my cup of tea, but they do like to point out that was back when they put the original ingredients in there. That blows my mind. Yeah.
Not my cup of tea either.
Yeah, not my thing, but they do like. I just think that's pretty interesting to imagine giving kids sugar and cocaine. Can you imagine? One of the last tours just told me some weird history with it and everything too. I guess there's a bunch of stuff. I don't even remember it all, but they were saying like it was funny. They got in trouble originally for taking that out of the recipe. It was something hilarious. So I got to look into the rest of that history. So finally, he must have had something in mind with the rum and cokes. It was purchased by our owner, Chef Paul Mensa, and became the very first legal distillery, not only here in Key West, but throughout all Monroe County. So that really was a big deal. I'm going to do a little raffle real quick, a little ticket here. Looks like you guys are the only ones, so I'm going to assume you got pretty good odds. This is the only one here that's not for sale. Instead of aged for 18 months, we found a barrel aged for 7 years in the vat bitch. So we're not going to sell it. We just labeled them upside down. That's why it's a little darker. We just did a little bit of them for the raffle. Just a little left over there. So if you guys got your little ticket there, see that? I already dropped one of them, so I already know. What a coincidence, it's you guys.
Man.
What are the odds, huh?
How lucky are we?
Yeah. So 7-year age bad bitch, so it's just cool because it's the only one here you can't get. When you guys go out there, you can ask them to try different samples, not only just these ones right here. There's a bunch of different rums out there that I didn't mention for the sake of time. Every one of them is made with the highest quality ingredients. Just an example of that right here for a spiced rum. If you want the highest quality chili peppers, you're going to source them from Hatch Chili, or get those Hatch Chili peppers from New Mexico there. So that's where we sourced ours from. If you want the highest quality pineapple drinks, you're going to use a real pineapple. He's slicing the whole pineapple, took his brulee gun, caramelized that pineapple, macerated it. That's what one of your pineapple rums. Every one's a real flavor. I'll end on this for my last comment, the Cuban barrel. As I mentioned, I love sailing. I've been to all these little islands all around here. I haven't been over to Cuba yet. I was going to put that as a character. A lot of the old people, I would never do it myself. A lot of people did mention if they did go to Cuba, just don't let them stamp your passport. Apparently it's the U.S. It's not cool. I would never do that. It's also my first time crossing the border. I want to follow all the rules.
Yeah.
So I went all the way back around, check back in, and came back down. Hopefully one day that they can lift that embargo and we can freely be able to sail back and forth too. Somebody just said there's some kind of humanitarian or education program and they're going to be able to go and visit. But hopefully they just lift the embargo and we can all experience that one day.
That'd be nice.
When they did temporarily lift the embargo, the chef took a 70-foot shooter, loaded up some barrels of rum, and his wife was the first American to run rum the opposite direction to Cuba. Thank them for all the years of running it our way. Got that famous mojito recipe out front. One more rum running accolade for him personally. And I thought it was a pretty good excuse to spend a romantic weekend with his spouse. You guys are out doing that now on a little tropical island. I thought you guys would think that's pretty cool too.
That's pretty cool.
If you guys want to take any photos together, have any questions or anything, and whenever you're ready to head out, take a ride at that door there and ask those ladies to try samples or whatever you're curious about.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Can I see your warmer? Yeah. You can just cut that part out. I'm so sorry.